Want to be a topper in MBA entrance exams? Join BYJU'S Exam Prep, CAT and MBA YouTube channel and watch serial 99 percentilers teaching you the tips and tricks.
Hi guys, a very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to another session from BYJU'S Exam Prep in your journey to MBA. What we're going to talk about this session is about an exam called SNAP. So this is a series where we are doing or rather we are giving out information about various exams. In fact, I started with, I believe, NMAT, that is for NMIMS, I have done for IIFT, now I'm doing for SNAP, I have got ZAT the next week. So we are doing this series of lectures where I'm going to take 40-45 minutes to explain about the various colleges and their entrance exams, especially the entrance exams. So this is, I think this is a third in that series, third session in that series, where I'm going to talk about this exam called SNAP. Right, so let's understand about this exam. Again, the format is quite straightforward. I'm going to talk about what are the colleges that take this exam, what are the top colleges, what is the paper pattern, what are the unique parts of or the unique nature of this exam, is there something different about this exam, and the cutoffs and percentiles. So this is basically what we're going to do in each one of these sessions. Right, so if you want to look at my previous sessions, of course, they're already there on YouTube. Go back and search for NMAT and IIFT. I think these two exams have already been covered. I'm doing NMAT right now, and as I mentioned, I'll be covering ZAT in the next week also. Well, a very good afternoon, Vijay. So let's move on and take a look at what are the colleges that are accepting this particular exam. So when you're talking about SNAP, this is an exam which is basically it's an exam which is specifically for one group of institutions called Symbiosis, right? So all Symbiosis colleges, they accept your SNAP exam only. So if you want to get into the top colleges like SIBM Pune, SEMHRD, if you want to get into SIIB or SIOM, and there are a lot, this is not the end of it, I've just given you some 3-4 names, but there are a ton of Symbiosis colleges which only take the SNAP exam as the qualification to get into their college. So that's for round 1. Of course, once the exam is done, based on the score in the exam, you will be called for the second round, which is your interview as well as the other activities. Now, Symbiosis, I'll talk a little bit about the later part of the process here before we get into the exam per se. This is one group of institutions where they not only take your exam, which is almost many B schools do this exam, So first round is basically an exam, you get a score in it. If you get a good enough score, you'll be called for the second round. The second round has a mixture of things. There is a interview, there's a PI, there is a group exercise which is usually not found. It's very unique about Symbiosis that they talk about, or they have something called as a group exercise where they put a group of 10 people or 12 people, they form a group of 10 or 12 people and they give them a task to complete. But all that is after the exam in the second round, apart from the interview. So this group exercise is quite interesting. They would like to see how the dynamics of the group function, or rather how the group functions. You all don't know each other. All of you are put together in the same class or in a room. You've been given a task, and please understand that each one of you is competing with the other. But to be successful as a group exercise, all of you have to coordinate with each other, help each other, because if the group passes, if some of you are not helping, then the entire group fails. So while each one of you is competing with the other, you would also like to see each other, you like to help each other out, because the entire group kind of will be looked at. How did you perform in a group? So individuals who did not help will not be given great opportunities. So anyway, so that's basically something good about this entire universities, the colleges that are affiliated to this. So we have Symbiosis colleges, the top ones being SIBM Pune. So SIBM has 3 campuses. I think they're opening a 4th also. The top 3 campuses right now are Pune, Pune, the SIBM Pune happens to be in the top 20 rankings in India without doubt. I mean, it's a very good campus to get into. Then you have SCM HRD, again a very good campus, very well known for HR. Of course, it has HR. Apart from HR, it has a lot of other options also. You have marketing, you have finance, you have everything there, but it is known for HR, SCM HRD. Then you have Pune campus, then you have Bengaluru campus. I'm currently in Bangalore, so you have the Bangalore campus. Then you have the Hyderabad campus. Okay, so these are the top three SIBM campuses: Pune, Bangalore and Hyderabad. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of them. Then you have SEMHRD, SIIB and SIOM. In fact, SEMHRD is considered to be better off than the Bangalore campus of SIBM or the Hyderabad campus for that matter. In fact, in rating, if I have to rank it within this symbiosis colleges, the top rank goes to your SIBM Pune. And the second rank goes to your SEMHRD, sorry. Right, and the third would be probably your SIIB, and fourth will be SIBM Bangalore or Bengaluru. Now it's Bengaluru. And then of course the other colleges, SIOM and all keeps coming. They keep coming in one after the other after that. But that's the basic idea. Now, what are the exam dates? Typically, as of today, I'm talking about last year what happened, because this year's dates are still tentative, it's not yet confirmed, but I'm expecting this is the typical timeline that you're looking at, which will more or less 5-10 days here and there, but this is the timeline. So the timeline is the registrations will be out, will start from October and November. The notification should be out any moment now in the next few weeks, 1 or 2 weeks. The registration will start from the month of October, or the October end will go on till the end of November. And this time, in fact the last time, the exam was conducted thrice, and I expect the same thing to happen this year also. The exam was conducted once in December and twice in January. So totally the SNAP exam was conducted 3 times. Right, so that's basically what happened. It's in the mid of December, then early January and mid-January. So these are the 3 timelines that you're looking at. I'm expecting the same timelines to be happening in this year also. Okay, so that's which means you have this exam coming to you after your CAT exam for sure, and also it will be in the same month as your ZAT. So what are the unique features about this particular exam? What is so special about this exam? Firstly, as I said, it is held thrice. Now, why is it held thrice? What is the great thing about it? Well, like NMIMS, you can write it twice. Now, last year, NMIMS, because of COVID, allowed students to write it only once. But that is not how it is. NMIMS normally allows you to write thrice. But because of COVID, it said, please don't write so many times, come and write only once. Whereas SNAP allows students to take the exam 2 times. Last year, they did not change it. While NMIMS changed it, SNAP did not change it. So they allowed the students to take the exam 2 times. This year also I'm expecting that you'll be allowed to take the exam twice. Now, out of the 2 scores, the higher of the 2 will be considered. So you don't have to worry what happens, which score will be considered. Whichever is the higher score, it will be considered. And the thing about the score is you don't have to worry about sectional scores, because there is no sectional cutoff. So it's only the overall score. So in one exam you got 35, in another exam you got 38. Of course 38 will be taken. Okay. Now, is it advised, or is it advisable for students to write more than once? That's the question that you need to ask. Yes, in my opinion, I would definitely say write SNAP twice for one reason. They have something called as no process of normalization. Rather, they don't have something called as normalization. What is this normalization all about? For example, if you write this NMAT exam, okay, which happens over a period of 3 months, I've covered that in the NMAT session. I've mentioned that these NMAT scores are finally normalized and you get a normalized score. What is the meaning of this normalization? They get a raw score and they try to look at, is this score rather they try to map the score versus the difficulty level of the paper. So while they try to create every day's paper to be kind of same level of difficulty, it is impossible to create two exactly same level difficulty. I mean, one could be if I have to draw a graph, I can say that if paper 1 is this difficulty, broadly paper 2 will be in this range. It will be in this small range. I can, work somewhere above, somewhere below. It is impossible to create exactly same difficulty. I mean, that precision nobody can do. So what they do is, in this process of normalization, they try to account for this small gap of difficulty level also. Because somebody who's got slightly easier paper will get 2 or 3 marks more than you. If you are in this place, if you are in the paper 1, this difficulty level, somebody who got this will get 2 or 3 marks more than you. Somebody who is writing a slightly more difficult paper than yours, you will be getting 1 or 2 marks less than you. Then how can I compare absolute marks? I can't. So they have a process called as normalization, where they try to adjust for this difficulty level. So what they do is, let's say you got let's say in your NMAT, or as an example, out of NMAT is obviously not for 100 marks, but I'm just taking it, let's say out of 100 as an example, you got, let's say, 80 marks and the difficulty level is here. So this guy got something around 82, or rather it's more difficult, so he'll be getting 77 marks. This person got 81 marks. Obviously this paper is a bit more difficult. This paper is slightly less difficult compared to the slot that you wrote. Then what does this normalization do? The normalization tries to equate these 3 marks and see, is 77, is it same as 80, or is it more than 80? Because you got 77 in a difficult paper, rather one person got 77 in a difficult paper, whereas another person got 80 in a slightly easier paper. So how do I compare these two? The process of comparison is called as normalization. And that normalization is what will finally convert this raw scores into a scaled score, which NMAT does, which CAT does. All these exams which have, or which are conducted in more than one slot, all these exams which are conducted in more than one slot, and students write in different slots according to what the in a time slot has been given, all these exams do this normalization. The exception is SNAP. SNAP, for some reason, say that, look, we will not do any normalization. But what they are saying is, they are saying that we are trying to create the 3 papers. So what they are basically saying is, they are trying to create paper 1, paper 2 and paper 3 at exactly the same level. They are saying that these 3 papers will be at the same level. We have done some kind of a way in which we can create 3 same difficulty level papers, but in my honest opinion, that is not possible. So definitely, if you look at it, a same student writing paper 1 and paper 2 might not getting. So let's say I woke up at 10 o'clock today. In the same mindset, I wrote an exam called SNAP. Then 5 days later, same mindset, same ability, I wrote the same exam again. Same exam meaning a different paper again. There is no guarantee that I will be getting the same score in both the exams. I might get a 36 here, I might get a 38 here. So there will slightly be that 1 or 2 marks difference, assuming that I am performing equal in both the papers. So they are claiming that they are going to do this, but frankly, in my opinion, it is not possible for anybody to create 2 exactly equal papers. So now why am I saying? Because of this, you need to write the exam more than once. If they are giving you option of writing twice, please do write it, because by chance, if you say you are writing this paper 2, the second time exam, the exam which is happening the second time, if that is the first attempt for you, let us say this is a bit difficult. And despite what they claim, let us say this is a little bit easier. Then because there is no normalization, you might end up getting slightly lesser marks than somebody who's writing in your slot 3. So frankly, I would say, while I would not ask you to do this in a NMAT, unless necessary, unless you felt the score is bad, but in SNAP, I would definitely recommend that you please go ahead and write the exam twice if they're allowing you to write it twice. Right? So because they are not going to normalize, so whatever score you get, that is going to be the final score. So they will not consider the difficulty level of the paper after the exam has been conducted at all. So that's the reason why I'm saying please go ahead and write this exam twice. Okay. So what is the nature of the exam? The exam is one of the very short exams in this MBA domain. In fact, trust me when I say this, last year I went to write this exam to a place which was about 1.5 hours away from my house. So I traveled for 1.5 hours, came back for another 1 hour 15 minutes, 1 hour 20 minutes. Totally I spent 3 hours in traveling, whereas the exam is only for 1 hour. For a 1 hour exam, I ended up traveling 3.5 hours. So this is one of the shortest exams in the MBA space. Only a 1 hour, which is a 60-minute exam. It has 3 sections. It has English, logic and maths. All these 3 sections without any sectional time limit. It does not have any sectional time limit. So you will have all 60, so it's a 60-minute question, 60-minute paper, and the total number of questions are also 60. 60 questions in 60 minutes. This includes your English, logic and maths. Now I'll give you the breakup also, what happens in each one of these sections, how many questions are there. I'll have them in the next slide. But yes, it's a paper where speed is of utmost importance. You have exactly 1 minute per question, which means you cannot end up wasting time even thinking about a question for more than 30-40 seconds. Because if you're thinking for 30-40 seconds, then solving will take another 1 minute or so. So you are spending 1.5 minutes or above on a question in such a case, which is not supposed to be done. So ideally, this is an exam which is not going to be difficult if you compare it to a XAT or a CAT. It is definitely not as difficult as them. The questions are not going to be difficult. The questions are going to be easy, and you can attempt all 60, in my opinion, in 60 minutes. At least you can read them. You might not be able to answer all of them. Of course, there will always be 1 or 2 difficult questions, but the broad idea of the paper is not to give you calculations, too many calculations or too many things to spend time or waste time. It's more about quickly understanding what can be done, what should not be done, see, even if you spend 3-4 questions, or rather if you pick 3 or 4 questions wrongly, your 10 minutes are gone. So what they check in this 1 hour paper is they don't give you time to think. What they say is, look, you have 60 minutes, you have exactly 60 seconds to solve, 60 questions to solve. Don't waste your time on trying to think can you solve it or not. So you should absolutely know yourself. What are the things that you know? What are the things you can solve? What are the things you cannot solve? There is no such thing called as, okay, let me try. Let me attempt. No, there's no such thing called as let me. Either you know for sure how to do it, or you don't know, you leave it. That's the kind of an exam it is. It precisely, it makes you take a decision within 5 seconds. You don't know it, quit, leave it, move on to the next question. That's how this exam is. So it is not an exam that you can go straight away, and you can always write any exam, but it's not an exam where without practice you can get good marks. So you will be required to write at least 6 or 5 to 6 mocks of SNAP. Without writing 5 to 6 mocks of SNAP, I don't think you'll be doing a good job in SNAP, because the structure is very different from your CAT and XAT. Especially CAT, where you are used to a sectional time limit, and you have slightly higher amount of time compared to what you have in your SNAP. So if you are preparing for the SNAP exam, please make sure that you write at least 5 to 6 mocks, and speed matters a lot in this exam. Okay, and of course, as I mentioned, there is no sectional time limit. There is no sectional cutoff. So like many other, so for example, if you look at the exam called XAT or IIFT, while there are no sectional time limits, there is a sectional cutoff. So you need to get minimum score in every section. SNAP is not like that. You can leave entirely one section and still get good score using the other 2 sections. So you're at liberty to choose what you want to do here. You don't need to worry about things that you don't like much. So SNAP is that way a bit unique compared to the other exams, where it allows you to freely attempt whatever you want to attempt. Okay. And yes, it is a computer-based test, so the hard copy of the paper will not be available. You will be having the questions in the computer format. You will read them electronic format. You will read it and you will leave it at that. So you can't have the paper in your hand. So till they give you the result, you will not exactly know how many questions you're getting right or wrong. Okay, but yeah, usually people from various institutes, even from BYJU'S, we write the exam, we try to collate the question paper and try to see, give you an analysis on the exam day. But yes, as a student, the paper, I mean, you'll be getting the result somewhat directly. There's no paper in your hand to understand what went wrong or what went right. So you'll just have to wait for the result. What is the exam structure now? So this is the basic exam structure. As I said, it's complete 60 minutes, that's 1 hour, and 60 questions. The English part has 15 questions. The logical reasoning and analytical reasoning, so ALR, analytical and logical reasoning, has 25 questions, and your quant plus data interpretation plus data sufficiency has 20 questions. So this is adding up to a total of 6 is 20, 25, 45 plus 15 is 60. So 20 from maths, 25 from logic and 15 from English. As you can see, the maximum questions come from your logic section. And I'll also talk about what type of questions come in each one of the sections, but the basic idea is this, right? It's always +1 mark per question if you get it right, and there is -1/4. 1/4, that is 25% negative mark if you get it wrong. So you can't blindly guess, it's 1/4 negative. This is the structure of the exam. Now what happens in the paper? What kind of questions come in the paper? So let's start with English. English, last year's paper was like this. You had fill in the blanks. There were 4 questions on fill in the blanks, where a statement will be given and they'll ask you to identify the most appropriate word that can get into the blank. So they'll give you a sentence which has a blank and they'll give you 4 options, A, B, C, D. Which of these 4 options can actually get into this blank? Based on the context, you have to identify the word. Okay. Then you have grammar based questions. They will give you wrong sentences. You are supposed to correct the sentence. So that's something which is grammar, usually not checked in CAT at all. But yes, grammar makes an appearance in this exam. Parts of speech is again grammar, identifying the various parts of speech. And that is one part. The other part of grammar. So in this grammar, the kind of things that you can also come across is active speech, passive, active voice, passive voice, how to convert. So what is so they can give you a sentence and they say convert this into passive voice, or which of the following 4 options is the correct conversion into a passive voice, and they'll give you 4 options. Okay, so that kind of grammar that you would have learnt in your 6th, 7th, 8th classes, it's not very difficult at all. Basic logic, basic grammar that you have already been taught way back in your school. That's what is going to be asked. Now, apart from that, parts of speech, identify the verb or identify the adverb or something like that, which basically needs you to know what kind of parts of speech you're dealing with. Or they will say, what is the correct preposition that can be used? Again, I can give you a fill in the blank and I can say, fill in the blank with the correct preposition. So you need to understand in what sentence, what kind of a preposition can be put up or can be written. So that kind of questions do come in your as a part of your grammar and parts of speech. Then you have your vocab, which is basically synonyms and antonyms kind of questions. Synonyms and antonyms, meanings and opposites. Then you have idioms and phrases. Then you have, okay, this is something which is very, very unique to SNAP. I haven't seen this in any other MBA entrance exam. They give 1 or 2 questions where they will ask you which of the following 4 options is the correct spelling of a particular word. So they will give you, for example, if I want to mention this, let me take a word. So if I take, okay. So belligerent, there's a word which has a particular meaning to it, but they will give you 3 and 4 options. Each option will have the same word but twisted in wording in your spelling. Gerant, so Bellent, R-E-G-A-N-T, and so on and so forth. So they will give you 4 which are quite confusing, and trust me when I say this, even if you know the word, the options, we normally, what happens? When you read something, you don't read the entire word. You will see the first 1 or 2 letters, you will see the last 1 or 2 letters, and your word is formed in your mind. But if I give you 4 options where the first and last, or the first 1 or 2 and the last 1 or 2 are same, but in between I make a small change, not many of you will be able to identify the difference in the word. So you should know the correct spelling, and it's not that they're going to ask you words which you never heard of. They will ask you normally used words, but with a small spelling mistake. So 3 of them will be wrong, 1 of them will be correct, and you are supposed to identify what is the correct spelling. Now, this is the only exam, SNAP is the only exam that I've come across in MBA domain where spelling check is being tested. Do you know the correct spelling? If you ask me, is that really required? Frankly, we are all in the technology space today. We have a lot of tools that can help us correct our errors. In fact, even grammar is becoming, or learning grammar is becoming redundant to an extent, because we have apps and we have tools which will correct us in the grammatical, if there are any grammatical errors in the sentence. So if you're writing a mail, you have your Word doc telling you, look, there's something wrong in it. It shows you a red underline if there is a spelling mistake. It shows you a blue underline, double underline if there is a grammatical error in it. Anyway, there are tools which are going to help you out. So, well, why are they asking it? Is it really relevant? Keep the debate aside, but the fact of the matter is, yes, they do ask, so you have to prepare a little bit. Okay? Then, of course, last time they asked a poem, and I'm not saying that they asked you to write a poem. What they did was they gave one poem, and they asked questions, grammatical questions from that poem, and some interpretations from the poem. Kind of not exactly an RC, but kind of like it. Somewhat like in between. Okay, so that's what basically happened in the last year SNAP exam. That's as far as English is concerned. If you're looking at logical reasoning, the logical reasoning has 2 parts. One is verbal reasoning. The other is your analytical reasoning. Okay, or verbal reasoning, or let's call it logical reasoning and analytical reasoning. What is the analytical reasoning part? It is basically your normal logical reasoning, which is where you deal with input output, syllogisms, coding decoding, blood relations, direction sense, odd one out, linear arrangement. All of these come under your analytical reasoning. Logical reasoning are actually to do with English usage, statement and conclusion, statement assumption, cause and effect, general reasoning, basically critical reasoning, call it as CR. Then course and action. Now, what is this course and action? Course and action is something like decision making in ZAT. If you don't know what is the decision making or course of action, let me give you an example. Last year this question came in SNAP. The question was basically about, the question goes like this. You are a manager and you have taken 2 of your team members to a client meeting. The 2 team members, while discussing something about something, started getting into an argument and abused each other in front of the client. What is the course of action that you will do or you will take? And there were 4 options. You will ask the 2 employees to apologize to each other in front of the client. You will ask them to apologize to the client. You will, and it's something like that, 3rd, 4th options. So basically they'll give you a scenario and they'll ask you to identify what is the best course of action given the scenario, which is what happens in your decision making also in ZAT. So, but there are only 2 questions that come in that way. But again, this comes under your logical reasoning. So statement assumption, statement conclusion, and your cause and effect are one type of questions where you use critical thinking. Course and action is basically taking a mature decision in a given scenario. That kind of questions, or these kind of questions, come under course and action. Okay, course of action. And then of course, para conclusion. How do you end a paragraph? That kind of question also comes. So para summary can come, para completion can come once in a while, para jumbles can also come in. There is no hard and fast rule that only these things come, but this is the structure. This is how the question. So if you notice, 2 or 3 questions only come in, not more than that from each one of these topics. Okay, now in analytical reasoning, the most important topic happens to be your clocks and calendars. You can see that 4 questions have come from clocks and calendars, and letter series and number series, 3 questions have come from number series and letter series. So if you ask me what are the 2 most important questions or topics in your analytical reasoning, I would definitely say series and clocks and calendars without fail. Okay. Let's move to Quant and take a look at what happened in Quant. In Quant, again, the paper structure is somewhat like this. You have percentage profit and loss. PPL is percentages profit and loss. Time and work, time and distance. So if you're looking at arithmetic, you have arithmetic, AIR. Not AR, ARI. Arithmetic, totally about 5 questions. Then you look at numbers basically LCM, HCF, your factors, divisibility rules, so 2 questions. Then if you look at algebra, you have only quadratic equations that has come in last year. You have geometry and mensurations, totally around 3 questions. Then you have DI. Okay, this is set theory. So DI and set theory you have. DI is basically data interpretation, a small graph and 1 question being asked. Set theory is your Venn diagram based question. Then progressions. Progressions comes under algebra, again your AP, GP. Usually it is arithmetic progression and geometric progression. Binomial theorem, 1 question. Then permutation, combination and probability. Probability does not come in CAT, but probability comes in SNAP, it comes in NMAT, it comes in ZAT. So those of you who are preparing for CAT, usually you don't focus on probability too much, but please keep in mind, except CAT, every other exam ends up asking something or the other about probability. At least 1 question comes from probability, and in ZAT, in fact, more than 1 or even 2 or 3 questions can also end up coming from your probability. Right? So probability is an important topic, probably not for CAT, but definitely for the other exams. So this is basically what happened. So your most important areas would be arithmetic, then you will have your geometry, then you will have P and C plus probability together. So this will give you around 5 to 6 questions, this will give you around 2 to 3 questions, this will give you around 2 to 3 questions. So here, out of the 20 questions, you will end up getting 10 or 9 to 12 questions from these 3 areas alone. So please keep that in mind when you're preparing for your SNAP exam. Now if you look at the cutoffs for various top colleges under SNAP, this is the table that talks about it. The top college, as I mentioned, happens to be SIBM Pune. You need to get a 98 percentile. 98 percentile, which is the score out of 60 marks. Out of 60, 42, 43 is the score that will give you 98 percentile. Normally that's the range. 97 percentile is where you'll be getting SEM HRD, and the score required will be in the range of 39 to 40. That's approximately 40 is a safe bet for you if you are looking at SEM HRD. And so on the fourth, you have 93 percentile, you need SIB Pune, that will be around 38 marks or 37 marks. And you're talking about 90 percentile for SIBM Bengaluru, which will be about 35 marks, and SIBM will be around 32 marks. So if you want to get into the top 5 colleges under SNAP, you have to get at least target is 90 percentile in your SNAP exam. In terms of marks, out of 60, you are looking at nothing less than 32 to 33. So 33 is your bare minimum if you want to get into the top 5 colleges of SNAP. Now, the fee is not cheap. If you look at the fee, you can have SIBM Pune, I mean, you are having SIBM Pune at 23 lakhs. Right, so the second highest is SEM HRD at 22.5 lakhs. Then you have SIBM Bengaluru. Bengaluru is a bit more costlier simply because of the metropolitan city it is in. The cost of living is high. So, and the office, in fact, the campus of SIBM Bangalore is just few kilometers from where I am taking the session right now in Bangalore. It's in a place called Kormangla. It's quite nearby. It's in the heart of the city that way. One of the very posh areas, so of course the cost is going to be high. Then of course SIOM is about 15 lakhs. So these are the costs and the percentiles, the fees, percentiles and the scores that you need to get into these colleges. Right? So that's basically what I wanted to discuss today, my friends. So that's all about SIBM and SNAP exam for that matter. So I hope you have got something to take away from this session, some knowledge about this particular session. From this particular session, I mean, If you are interested in preparing for your CAT 2022, you still have some time. We are starting last set of batches for this particular CAT 2022 that's going to happen in the coming November. Please contact this number and check out about the batch timings and the starting of the batch. Thank you friends, and see you in the next session.